Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. I know it's been a while. I've missed you. I've been working on a side project, two different ones actually. One kind of just got canceled because of the whole crazy market crash which has happened. But the second one has me motivated to be putting these out again. I'm playing poker a few days a week anyway, so why am I not doing more of these? Well, I needed to edit one myself completely to learn it and kind of get some confidence for being more consistent within YouTube and doing this and kind of trying to become a vlogger or whatever. And this is it. So this is a product of me 100% from start to finish. I edited all of it. Took me forever to learn it and get it done, but this is all mine. I'm happy on it, and it immediately gave me a confidence boost and motivation to be putting out more of these. And it was a lot of fun doing it as well. Yeah, this session is crazy. You're gonna have to watch it. But I know I'm not just recording a bunch of sessions and then only picking the craziest ones. I haven't recorded in a while. I recorded this, and the second I turned on the camera, once again, it was just an explosive session. So more motivation to get more videos out to you. Hope you guys enjoy it. Hit the like and subscribe button. Give me some more motivation to get more of these out, and come along on the journey with me. Thanks, guys.
All right, here we go. First hand, we start off hot with ace of clubs and king of hearts in the hijack. We look over to player limping, and the player to our right quickly raises to $15 out of the low jack. We make an easy raise here to $45, and unfortunately for us, we get zero callers and don't even get to see the flop. Not a bad start to the session though. A few quick hands later, we're under the gun and peek down at king of clubs, queen of spades, and we put in a small raise of $10. Middle position and button both calls. We're going to the flop three ways, and it comes queen of hearts, queen of diamonds, five of clubs. We smack this one. We lead out for $15, and unfortunately for us, we get two folds and take down the hand right then and there. Sometimes check calling is a great line, but I was really feeling a lead there. Sometimes you can get them thinking you're just trying to buy it, and you'll be met with some solid resistance when they try to take a stab at a raise or a float with ace high or mid pair. Either way, we take another one down, so no complaints. A few rotations happen before we find ourselves in the small blind looking down at jack of hearts and 10 of hearts. We have four limpers who are trying to see a flop cheaply, and we're not having it. We raise to $17 in the big blind, middle position, low jack, and button all call. So we're looking at a Texas heads up, which means we're going to the flop five ways. The flop comes ace of diamonds, three of clubs, and three of spades. I check, as does everyone else. The turn is a 10 of spades, and I have to bet here with a sizing of $40. A check call here would have been more appropriate, but sometimes you just do what feels right and hope it's not wrong. The low jack comes along for the ride and calls. The river comes a 7 of clubs, and the villain bets $50. This is a perfect value bet on his part because it keeps me calling with weaker hands instead of giving up on a 5-to-1 call. I put in a single chip knowing I'm about to cut out $45 more out of my stack as he shows 5-3 offsuit. He called my $17 pre-flop raise with 5-3 offsuit. This is a great table, you guys. We're in the hijack next hand and look down at jack 9 offsuit. There are three limpers in front of us, and because of how the table is playing, I opt to see a flop in late position here and join them with the limp. With it being as loose as it is, I'm going to take some flops with mediocre cards in position and see what I can carve out. If this table was playing the way it's playing, but the game was raked, I'd be cutting my mediocre limping range by about 50%. But since we're playing by the hour, a limping range can be profitable in some situations or at some tables. Anyways, the small blind raises to $15, and I call along with two others, so we go to a flop four ways. The flop comes out a very unfortunate queen of hearts, queen of diamonds, and king of spades. It checks all the way around. Turn card comes out, and it's a 7 of clubs, and the small blind leads for $25. Everyone, including myself, lets their cards go. There's no reason to battle for this pot unless we're ready to bluff it all the way down, and this player isn't folding anything tonight. We're under the gun 1 now with 10-9 of hearts. We raise to $10 and hijack raises to $40. We'd normally be folding here because we're just not deep enough, but this is the same guy who called my 3-bet with 5-3 offsuit. And we're trying to play as many pots as we can with him with some solid ranges, so we make the call. Flop comes ace of diamonds, 7 of spades, and 8 of clubs. We check, he checks, and the turn brings a beautiful 6 of spades, completing our open-ended straight draw. We lead out for $55, and he quickly folds. Not a huge pot, but we'll take it and hoping we can get him on the next one. In the big blind, we look down at ace-queen offsuit. We see 3 people limp, including the small blind, completing his blind, but this isn't enough for us. We bump it up to 17 bucks, and under the gun 1 calls, early position calls, and button calls. Small blind opts to fold, so we're going to the flop 4 ways. The dealer rips out the flop, which is an ace of hearts, 10 of hearts, and 5 of clubs. Being that there's a flush draw on the board and a possible Broadway, we don't want this to check through. So we lead out for $35 to get value from weaker aces and of course flush draws. Under the gun 1 calls and we see a turn which brings an 8 of diamonds. We fire again for value and denying equity. We settle on $75 and he snap folds before we can get our money into the pot. Next hand we get some pocket jacks. Sorry I don't have a cute catchphrase for jacks yet. Maybe later I'll come up with some options and you guys can vote on it. Anyways, we're in middle position and we raise it to $10. Cutoff, button, and big blind call. Again, 4 ways to the flop, which comes king of diamonds, 9 of spades, and a 2 of clubs. We lead out for $20 and get 3 folds to take down the pot. After a few small pots, get ready for a big one. I'm not going to spoil whether we win it or lose it, but it's a good one. We're now on the cutoff with ace 4 of spades, and there's a $10 straddle on. Early position limps for $10, and we raise it up to $50. Straddler calls, as does under the straddler / gun ? I never really know what to call under the straddler. Leave a comment below and let me know what you call the first to act after the straddle. Anyways, flop comes 4 of clubs, 3 of spades, and deuce of spades. Thank you, dealer. This is the perfect flop for us to play a big pot in position. We have top pair, top kicker, with a wheel draw, and the nut flush draw. It checks to us, and we cut out a bet of $60, and the straddler calls while the under the gun folds. The turn brings a sexier than ever 10 of spades. We complete our nut flush. Straddler checks to us, and we push out $115 for a value bet and, of course, our second barrel. He tanks for a bit and does the most beautiful thing ever. He announces all in. We instantly call and open our hand and show him the bad news. He just shakes his head yes, but his look is of disappointment. He doesn't show his hand, and of course, we don't ask to see it. He had us covered, and our stack size was $355 at the end there. Total pot size, $941. We are happy. Let's keep these big nutted hands up, and the pot's large. We're nearing dinner time now, around 5 p.m., and in the cutoff, we find ourselves with 9 of diamonds, 7 of diamonds. It folds to me, and I make it $10 to see a flop. The small blind and big blind both opt to call and see a flop which comes ace of hearts, 7 of hearts, and 4 of clubs. They check it over to me, and I fire out a half pot size bet of $15. Their range is really wide here, but contains a lot of weak aces and random flush draw hands. So our plan was to hopefully pick up the pot right then and there, but that plan went to shit when the small blind, who is a very tight player, calls. The turn comes of 6 of hearts, and he checks it over to me, and I check it back, not falling for the trap. A river comes, and it's the 10 of spades, and the small blind leads out for $35. This is just a pure value bet, especially coming from this player. I can fold pretty much 100% of the time here, but instead I hit the stupid button and click call, and he shows me the bad news. Of course he does. He shows 6-7 offsuit for 2 pair, and we watch the pot get pushed his way. A few hands later, and we're under the gun 1 and look down at some sexy ladies. Our second pocket pair of the night, and we're just getting started. We raise it up to $10, and we get middle position to call and big blind to come along for the ride as well. The flop comes out, ace of diamonds, 3 of hearts, and 10 of spades. We lead out for $15, hoping to take the pot down there with the plan of shutting down if we get resistance, which is exactly what we get with both players calling. The turn comes the 4 of hearts. Small blind checks, I check, and the middle position fires out a confident bet of $35. We're just not beating much except a pure bluff, as he has every ace-x 2-pair combo in his range. If the turn was a club, I may consider calling down, as this player definitely knows how to navigate ranges, but since we see another heart, it leaves more suited combos available to smack this board. Both of us fold, and we watch the villain rake in the pot. The very next hand, I'm under the gun and get dealt ace of diamonds, jack of diamonds, and we raise it up to $10 as we're first to act. And the low jack, who has been extremely quiet this whole time I've been here, had a little burp, and hasn't 3-bet once, fires out an almost min-click raise of $25. We call just to see a flop and hopefully smack it, but we're going to fold to most everything. The flop comes out and it shows 10 of clubs, 4 of diamonds, and 2 of clubs. I check with the intention of folding to any bet. Against anyone else, I would be calling with backdoor diamonds, 2 overs, and runner straight draw. But against this player, we're going to shut down as we won't get paid if any of those hit anyways. He goes ahead and fires a $35 bet, and I toss him in the muck. We're in the hijack, and there's a $5 straddle on, and after one person limps in directly to our left, we look down at King 9 of hearts. We raised it up to a smaller amount of $12 to bring in some weak ranges that we're willing to navigate 3 streets post-flop with. The big blind calls, the straddler calls, as does the limper. 4 ways to the flop of King of spades, 2 of hearts, and 2 of clubs. It checks to us, and we fire out a bet of $20. Big blind and straddler both fold, and the player to our right calls. The turn brings the jack of diamonds. This card doesn't really help his range at all since King Jack will be raising pre-flop a lot, so we can just check back as we have good showdown hand, and the only thing that's calling a bet here is going to be a better hand. We check it back, and the river comes a 5 of diamonds, and it gets checked down once again, and villain shows pocket 10s, and we win the pot. I may have played this a bit too passive at the end. I could have went for some thin value here, and likely would have gotten it. Another $35 bet would have been perfect, as he's likely not going to concede the pot after going this far, and will just have to look me up on it. Next hand finds us under the gun, 1, looking down at pocket 4s. We do the 1-2 signature move and limp in, only to watch early position make it 15 to go. Hijack calls, and it folds to us, and we make the call. This is just strictly a set mining operation at this point, as we're out of position, but very deep, so I think the call is warranted at this specific table. Flop comes out Jack, 3, 2, rainbow, and it checks around. The turn brings a 2 of clubs, so we take a shot at this with a $22 bet, and we immediately get 2 folds and take down the pot. We're now in the small blind, but I made a mistake with the recording and didn't catch our whole cards when I looked at them. So here we are holding King, Jack of hearts. There's a $5 straddle on, and we see 2 callers ahead of us. We're going to be raising this hand 100% of the time from the small blind when we haven't faced a raise yet. We'll be squeeze 3 betting this many times if the first raiser is in late position. So we raised to $30 and we get all 3 to call. Flop comes out King of clubs, 9 of clubs, and 4 of hearts. I can tell I was playing a lot less creatively this session when I just throw out a bet of $75. I think in the moment it was to charge flush draws, gut shots, or random 9x combos, but at the same time, with the way that Sable's been playing, I think a check raise or just a check call could have been great here. Anyways, we get the hijack to jam all in for $76. It's only another $1 for us to call, so we throw in a chip and see a turn, which brings us 7 of hearts, and the river gets ripped out of the deck just as quick as the turn came, and it's an ace of diamonds. That's not really the card we wanted to see. But fortunately for us, the villain just shakes his head and throws his hand in, showing Queen 10 of clubs. He was going for that gut shot we were trying to get value from. And we got it. We're feeling like a genius as the deck ramps up to continue hitting us in the forehead. The very next hand, the weirdness continues as I am now on the button and get dealt the exact same 2 cards. King Jack of hearts. I could still smell my run good on them from the previous hand. There's a $5 straddle on again, so we're basically playing 1-2-5 at this point, and I see 2 callers before it gets to me. We bump it up once again, but this time to $25. Big blind calls, and so does the hijack. We're traveling 3 ways to the flop, which comes 10 of spades, 6 of clubs, and 3 of clubs. It checks around, and the turn comes a 3 of spades. It checks again to us, and at this point, I think we can scoop the pot up right now with a bet, even though it makes no sense on this board. Sometimes it doesn't even need to make sense in these 1-2 games. So I fire $55 out, and the small blind flat calls, which is not good for us, or what I was hoping for, and then it turns from bad to worse. Hijack goes all in for around $120. He either smelt my bullshit or he hit some random hand on the flop or turn. Either way, we just snap fold, as does the big blind. Only a few hands later, and we're now on the low jack. We watch a few people limp in, and we look down at ace-queen offsuit. So we make a standard raise to $15. Small blind, under the gun, in middle position, all call. So it's off to the flop 4 ways. Flop comes in 10 of clubs, 4 of spades, and 3 of hearts. The small blind leads out for $15. Middle position calls, and so do we. We're blocking ace 5 and ace 10, though 4 ways we still need to proceed cautiously. The turn is a queen of diamonds, and small blind fires again for $15. We want to start building a pot here, and something about this situation makes me think he's full of shit or is going to try to make a play. So we raise it up to $50, and the small blind makes the call with only $22 behind. So we're going to showdown no matter what. The river brings another 4 of clubs, and we put them all in with a large bet, and he calls and shows us pocket deuces. I think that he thought he was bluff catching and was just going to hero call down with deuces. Well, he thought wrong, or maybe he's been drinking. Either one is a possibility with this play. We win another solid pot and keep stacking our piles. This hand, we find ourselves in the big blind looking over at hijack as he cuts out a raise of $12. The cutoff calls, and we look down at a beautiful ace-king offsuit. We also cut out a raise of $45 and push it over the betting line. Both players make the call, and 3 ways we go to the flop, which comes jack of diamonds, 4 of diamonds, and 3 of clubs. We check as we're out of position, holding no diamonds and up against 2 opponents in a large pot. Surprisingly, it gets checked around, and the turn comes a 10 of diamonds. It once again gets checked around. At this point, I can feel no one has a flush or much of anything, so I'm going to fire at the majority of rivers that peel out here. Luckily for us, it comes a king of spades, and we confidently lead out for $30 as a value bet, and we get 1 caller to bite. The cutoff calls and quickly shows us queen 10 of clubs, thinking he caught us bluffing as well, but we show him the bad news with top and give him a head tilt of respect. Sorry for the disappointment, but thank you for the chips. Look as the dealer pushes the pot our way. Our body temperature is literally getting hotter as we're feeling the heater tonight, fam. All right, let's take another little break to support your boy and hit the subscribe button. You scratch my back and I'll keep some good content coming your way. It only takes a few seconds, but helps me a ton. Now I'm in the small blind and there's a straddle on for $5. I watch middle position and cut off both limp, and after the button folds, I make a mistake of just calling here. I definitely should be raising this spot, and for a healthy amount since I'm out of position. After I realize the mistake, the flop is already out with 4 of us in the hand. We look at a flop of 7 of clubs, 5 of clubs, and 4 of hearts. We lead out for $10, which is a little under half pot, and the dealer puts out a turn after a quick call from the cutoff. The 2 of hearts changes nothing for us, so we fire again for $25, hoping to deny equity from flush or straight draws. Unfortunately, we get raised to $75. We don't really like this spot. He could literally have any 2 cards, and only another $50 behind with another small stack sandwich between us. There are definitely better spots for us, so after some contemplation, we just opt to let it go. The small stack does indeed call, and the raiser shows pocket deuces for a set. We're pretty happy with this fold and not sticking to top pair just because the opponents are shallow stacked. Next up, we're on the button and see a $5 straddle on. After watching the hijack and cutoff call the straddle, we look down at ace 4 of spades. We raise it up to $30. Straddler and cutoff both call, so it's off to a flop 3 ways in position. After pulling the chips into the pot, the dealer slides out a flop which comes 8 of spades, 6 of diamonds, and 5 of hearts. We check after the straddler and the cutoff check, and the turn is the king of diamonds. They both check, and we fire off a bet of $65, and the straddler throws his hand in the muck. The hijack cuts out a call. Right here, I think he's only calling with big draws. He's that type of player who is very aggressive when he has something, and he absolutely hates getting sucked out on. So if he were to have a big hand here in this spot, he would be raising. The only hand I see him flat calling with would be 4-7 of diamonds, which considering we raised $30 pre-flop, I put the odds of him holding that at less than 1%. Though at 1-2, anything is possible. The river comes a queen of clubs, and he checks once again. Everything bricked out here, and we are holding ace high. We do block his straight draw calling range, holding a 4, but we have to bet our worst hand here with some frequency, and we decide now is the time to execute that. We fire out a bet of $115, and he folds in a dramatic fashion with a lot of frustration behind his toss. Sorry, dude, but we came to win some money, and we're going to apply pressure whenever the situation calls for it. The very next hand, we're in the cutoff and watch the middle position player throw out a raise of $15, and the low jack makes the call. We look down at ace queen of spades. What a beautiful situation. We have a premium hand in position and others are building the pot for us. We go ahead and 3-bet to $50. Middle position calls, as does the low jack, which narrows his range heavily. We're going to remove all pocket pairs above 9s completely, as he would be raising those the vast majority of the time. I also have a lot of history with this player. His name is JP, and he has a lot of 6-figure tournament wins. He's a solid player, and I respect him a lot. JP, if you're watching this, sorry in advance, bro. We're going to the flop in a 3-bet pot with over $150 in the middle already. The flop comes and brings absolutely no help when it rips out 9 of clubs, 7 of clubs, and 4 of spades. The low jack checks and JP looks at the board for a handful of seconds before ripping his remaining $118 into the pot. JP is a very good player. He knows this flop rarely connects with our 3-betting range and pretty much only with 9s. His likely read of me not having an overpair is correct, but we do know that he's going to leverage this flop for his range advantage, so against a solid player like him, I can't just auto-fold this hand. He has a ton of draws and complete air here a lot of the time. If anyone else at the table did this, we'd likely be folding. So it's basically a compliment that he's a very good player who knows how to pick his spots. With that being said, we do go ahead and make the call, as does the low jack, which means we have to dodge every possible draw here basically. The turn brings us no help as it's the jack of hearts. They're not going to have many 10-8 suited in this hand, so I think we're safe on that draw for the gut shot. And luckily for us, the low jack checks, and we just check it back. There's really no reason to bet here. The river is a brick 2 of spades, and we show our ace queen of clubs, having a really good feeling that we're good. And we are. We scoop up close to a $500 pot with ace queen high. We're running good and playing really good too, but in a few hands that may be changing. 2 hands later and we're in the hijack, and after watching middle position limp in, we look down at, lo and behold, ace queen of spades again. This is now getting weird. We raise it up to $12 and the button and middle position limper both call. 3 ways to the flop comes out, ace of clubs, jack of clubs, and 3 of diamonds. It checks to us and we bet out $20. The button calls and we see the turn, which comes the 8 of spades. We fire another bet of $50 as his stack is 150 or less, so we're trying to chip that down for a jam by the river, but he does something surprising and he jams his remaining stack. He's a pretty skittish player, meaning if he flopped ace jack, which is unlikely, he would have been raising it to deny any flush or straight draw. I'm not folding this hand, even though I have a funny feeling we're behind, so after tanking for about 15 seconds or so, we toss in the call chip and the river brings no help, the 9 of spades. Billing quickly tables 2 pair, jack 8 offsuit. You win some, you lose some. We're now under the gun +1 and there's a $7 straddle on. We look down at king 10 of diamonds. This should have been a raise, but I opt to just call for some reason. I'm not sure if there was intention behind it, or something to do with the table dynamics at the time, or if it was just a pure mistake. Anyways, we go 4 ways to the flop of 10 of clubs, 3 of diamonds, and 6 of spades. We lead out for $6 and everyone calls. Looks like we're denying no one anything. The turn is a 7 of diamonds, bringing in a backdoor flush draw for us, but completing some potential straight draws for our opponents. It gets checked around and the river brings in a 3 of hearts. We lead out for $20, and after a few folds, the button raises to $60. I go through what 3s he could possibly have here, and I'm thinking out loud, and then I come to the realization it was a limped pot.
Actually, it's a limp pot, right?
He flashes 1 card and shows a 3. Glad we didn't pay $40 to see his trash hand that got there on the river. We complete the blind and go 5 ways to the flop after looking down at jack 8 offsuit in the small blind. We pull a great multi-way flop, jack 10-9 rainbow. We have top pair and open-ended straight draw, which is perfect. We lead out for $6 and big blind raises to 15. 2 others call behind him, so we're going 18 ways to the turn, which brings an ace of hearts. We check and big blind bet $60. Middle position calls and we get out of the way and fold. We don't feel like using our blocker as a bluff here, as he's just barreling so heavy, and I don't want to start committing his stack and just being in a difficult position with the bloated pot. So we fold, and the river brings the 3 of diamonds, and after seeing some bet calling, It goes to showdown, and the villain shows queen 8 for a flopped straight. Glad we got out of that one. We're now on the cutoff, and this table has basically been converted to a 1-2-5 table, as there is a straddle on once again. We see one player limp $5, and we look down at King Jack offsuit. We cut out a raise for $20 and push it over the betting line. Small blind makes the call, as does middle position and hijack, so we're headed to the flop 4 ways. The dealer tears the flop out. 8 of spades, 8 of diamonds, and 4 of hearts. Everyone checks, and we quickly go to the turn, which comes the queen of spades. It checks to us again, and we bet $45. The small blind elects to see another card with a quick call, and the river brings a beautiful king of spades, now giving us top 2. We only have to fear a slow played 8 or a risky turn call for a slim flush draw. Small blind checks once again, and we check as well. I don't feel like anything weaker than our hand would be calling a river bet, and I'm generally a big fan of betting slim, but it's a paired board and the river brought the 3rd spade. So we play this a little more passive, as he has a ton of 8x combos in his range, and we also have great showdown value. Though looking back, I think he would have been raising the turn with them. Let me know if I missed a good value spot in the comments below. Anyways, he shows queen jack, and we tell him no good as we flip over our king queen for top 2 pair, and we take down another one. Maybe we could have gotten a few more tokens out of him. I'm not sure. After a few more hands, we find ourselves under the gun +1. There's a $5 straddle on, so actually we're technically under the gun, I guess. We look down at pocket queens. I think this is the 30th time I had them this session. We raise it to $20, and it folds to the cutoff with flat calls. And then the button starts to cut out a raise. This is where things get weird, and mistakes ensue. Button raises to $100. He has about 350-ish behind. We call, and the cutoff gets out of the way. The flop comes 9 of spades, 8 of clubs, and 2 of diamonds. I lead out for $50. I don't see much of a reason to go bigger here. I could see maybe putting out closer to 35% pot bet, but I don't need to put out half or more really. My reason being at the time was he was super quiet and passive the whole time. He has not 3-bet once the entire time we've been here, and 3-betting after a cutoff calling is really strong for him. He takes a few seconds before going all in. This puts us in the blender. Literally any other player at the table would have been a snap call from me, and if they would have had kings or aces, then good hand, we'll take our lumps and move on. But this guy has just been so quiet and tight. And he seemed confident about his all-in, at least initially. As we're in the blender, we show him our queens, and he looks fairly stoic, but I just have this weird feeling. While I'm running through what I beat and what he's doing this with, he changes his demeanor to uncomfortable. Then he does something more weird. He tells me if I fold, he'll show, and proceeds to start talking to the players on his left. The blender speeds up, and my senses get a bit scrambled. I can feel that I'm good and something's off. But his previous playstyle and then weird comments are just making it hard to call. I don't know why either. Is he trying to pull some reverse psychology on me? Is he actually scared and wanting a fold? 50% of me thinking he's only doing this with kings or aces as he is such a tight player. The other 50% of me has my spidey senses crossed. I mull it over for a while, and while I'm doing this, JP, the player I said I respected a lot earlier and is a crusher, he starts showing the dealer text that he is writing on his phone. I know it says fold here, because he knows this player is a rock too. I look at JP and I throw my hand in the muck while shaking my head back and forth in a no motion. JP says good fold, and I say I don't think it was a good fold. And the guy shows pocket tens.
That's what I thought. I thought it was a bad fold.
We made a really bad fold, and the problem is it was against my gut feeling. I knew I was good there for some reason, but just logically, I thought I was rarely good. JP tells me his text he was showing the dealer was that I only beat pocket jacks.
I showed him, I said he only beats jacks.
And that was what was going through my mind as well. I guess aces would be flat calling and allow me to put more money into the pot on later streets, but many players are also afraid of others sucking out on them, so they just try to shut it down even if they know they have the best hand at the time. Anyways, I made a really bad fold going against everything my gut was telling me, and sometimes you just have to listen to your gut and turn off your logical brain. Lucky for us, we're running hot as the sun, so no need to fret. The very next hand finds us in the small blind. It folds around to the cutoff, who raises it to $20. Once it gets to us, we look down at, I kid you not, pocket aces. This is the very next hand after the bad fold with queens. We raised it up to $65. The original raiser is an older gentleman who I am poker close with. His name is Max, and he is a solid player who doesn't get out of line and knows how to pick spots. Max looks up at us and says, "Do you want to call her?" We smile at him and tell him, if you have a hand good enough, you should call. And he's looking like he's gonna fold. He asks us if we want to just run it. We tell him we'll run it for $100, and he laughs and puts in 100. We open up our aces, and he lets out another laugh and shows jacks. The flop comes out. I can't stop laughing because this session is just insane. The flop comes out 9 of hearts, 7 of hearts, and 4 of hearts. The dealer quickly rips out the turn, which is the 10 of hearts, and the river comes a deuce of hearts. We look at our tabled aces and see the beautiful ace of hearts next to the ace of spades, giving us the nut flush because, of course, we have the ace of hearts. Thanks, Max, for the good run and just fun, and I can't stop laughing. All right, it folds around to us, and we're now in the hijack and peel the cards out to reveal 10-8 of spades. We see there's a $5 straddle on, so we size up a raise to $20. The straddler calls, and the dealer puts the flop out. Ace of diamonds, jack of spades, and 8 of clubs. This flop is particularly good for our range and not amazing for his. He should be 3-betting all of his ace-jack suited pre-flop here, though many people at 1-2 don't do that. I'm blocking ace-8, so we like this spot. He checks over to us, and we bet $25, and he calls. At this point, we put him on a weak ace, ace-5 through ace-10 offsuit. Maybe some weak jacks like queen-jack, jack-king type holdings, or some Broadway draws he's willing to go with, knowing I'm an aggressive player and we'll get paid if it comes on the river. But regardless, the dealer puts out a 7 of hearts, and he checks over to us. We check again, which I'm on the fence about. I think firing again is warranted, but we just don't pull the trigger. The river brings a lot of help in the form of 10 of hearts. Jonathan checks it over to us, and we bet $45 for value. At this point, if he hits his flop hard, he would be leading the turn. So we're confident we're holding the best hand, being that we're blocking ace-10, ace-8, ace-jack. We think he's holding a weak ace and will act accordingly. He tanks for about an entire minute and puts in a call. We tell him 2 pairs, and he immediately says 2 pairs is good and tosses his hand in the muck as we expose our 10-8 of spades. We got max value on that one, and we're not complaining. We're getting over 5 hours into the session, and a much-needed taco break is coming up. I can hear the stomach grumbling. It's about that time.
All right. We are on break right now. I've never done like a mid-session break narration or anything like that. I don't even know how this is going to turn out, but we're running pretty good. We're playing pretty good. You'll see there's some big, or you saw, there's some big hands that were played out, went our way. I made a really bad fold that I knew was a bad fold. I had queens, there was a straddle on, I raised it to 25. This guy that's been super quiet, like just docile all night, raises it to 100 after someone else calls behind me. I tank call, other guy folds, so pot's like 240-ish, right around there, 237 or something. And flop 7-6, 4, whatever, he just jams. I knew I was good there. The way he looked at me when I showed him my queens, the way he was talking to other people, like soothing himself, and then telling me I'll show you if you fold. It was really fucking weird, and that kind of like, that's what made me kind of fold, is I thought maybe he was like reverse I call, I don't know. It was dumb. I knew I was good. I folded. I looked at John too, and I was like, he's like, good fold, and I was like, thanks, but I was shaking my head no, and he flipped over fucking 10s. But aside from that, yeah, playing pretty good. I'm getting max value and kind of some weird spots where there's a lot of combos that beat me, but I just kind of have a good read that I'm good there. But yeah, I mean, for 400, I'm at like 1550 right now, or 16 something. It's 8 o'clock.
going to get some tacos. Austin, if you like tacos, Austin's a fucking spot for them everywhere you go. You can just Google tacos near me and you got, you know, some amazing options that are just super good. Thanks for watching this far, and see you back at the tables in a little bit. In that break, I may have downplayed my heater a bit. After some reflection, I realized that I downplayed it a lot. But let's not waste time. We're here to win and also to have a blast, and we're doing both. Next hand, we're in the big blind with a full belly. There are 3 El Pastor and 3 Lingua tacos in there. You'll know why I'm laughing in a second. To be exact, let's keep up this run good before the food comes in full force. We watch middle position raise to $15, and the cutoff makes the call. We look down, and of course, we have nothing other than black aces. I can't even make this up. We raise it to $60 and get a little laugh from the table. We can't hold in a little one too. After the middle position folds, the cutoff makes the call. So we're headed to the flop heads up with aces. Again. Flop comes king of spades, 10 of spades, and 7 of hearts. We lead out for $75, expecting a fold, as I think they would have 3-bet their kings or 10s pre-flop before the action got to us. 7s are a possibility, but unlikely, just as likely as king 10. And of course, we do get a fold. While we didn't get to rake in a huge pot, we still got another pair of rockets and took down another decent-sized one. 0 complaints here. After we add our Pirate's Booty to our stack, we get dealt another hand, and now, of course, in the small blind. This is literally the next hand. We watch it fold to the low jack, who opens for $15. We look down at ace fucking king, of course. Because what else are you going to get dealt after pocket aces when we're on a heater like this? So we 3-bet to $45, and the low jack calls. Going to the flop heads up, and it comes a dry 10 of spades, 9 of clubs, and 5 of diamonds. We check, and the villain bets $14. We call, and the turn comes a queen of clubs. We check once again, as we're in no position to fire after check calling and improving by so little on the turn, and we get a very much expected second barrel from the villain, this time for a bigger sizing of $115. This is a quick and easy fold for us. We're only beating weaker bluffs that likely have more equity than us anyways, and we don't need to be fighting for every pot, especially when we're running this hot. After a handful of hands, we're now on the button. The table is having a ton of fun with banter, straddles, and a dude in seat 7 is just jamming all in, left and right, and betting everything. It's been nothing short of a blast, and running like God is icing on the cake. Seat 7, the guy who's just been a maniac, opens up to $15. He's in early position, and quickly after him, the hijack calls. We look down at pocket kings. What a spot. I 3-bet to $55, and the small blind cold calls, and the maniac does as well. Flop comes 8, 7, deuce, rainbow. Small blind checks, and maniac fires all in for $199. Well, this is what we came for, and we got it. So I flat call, as the small blind only has about 250 behind, and we'd like to see him get it in as well, as we're never folding kings in this spot. And small blind does jam for his remaining 250, and we snap call to move the hand along. I will say, the second I called, I thought I might be up against aces here, as the small blind is pretty tight and quiet, and I think he would have been 4-betting ace king and also queens. Anyways, the turn is a deuce, and the river is a 10, bringing in 3 clubs. Small blind turns over his aces, fair enough, and early position turns over 6-2 offsuit for 3-of-a-kind deuces. This is too fun. I'm not even upset. We're in a great game, having a blast. We say nice hand, and I start chatting with my end of the table about how much fun this is. Others disagree, as some people just don't like to play volatile games and just want to grind out a few big blinds an hour without sweating, but that is not me. We're looking at another $5 straddle again because this table is amazing and we're here for it. We're in low jack, and we watch a player ahead of us in under the gun 1 call, and we peek down at our cards. At this point, we're having some expectations of a premium because when you're running this hot, you can feel them coming. And of course, we have ace queen of diamonds. So we put in a quick raise to $25. The cutoff and button both call, and everyone else folds. So we're going 3 ways to the flop. The flop rips out ace of hearts, king of diamonds, 7 of clubs. We lead out for $40, and cutoff jams all in for another 90 on top. So a total of $130 is going in the middle from our stack. We call, and he shows us pocket kings. We could have found a fold here. for sure. We're just not beating many hands that jam unless they're pure bluffs. But sometimes at 1-2, players will just spaz with like any ace or like open-enders or weird combo draws. So the turn brings an inconsequential 6 of clubs and the river another 6. So we brick out as expected in this situation, and the dealer quickly pushes a healthy pot his way. All right, we have a fun one coming up here. We're in the small blind and get dealt ace of spades, king of hearts. The maniac is in position, and after it's folded to him, he says, okay, I'm moving to 1-3, I'm all in. He throws in 3 black $100 chips for $300 total. Well, this is interesting. The low jack throws in $15. Thinking that was the bet or thinking that he was raising, I really don't know. Either way, the dealer explains it's 300 to call, and 2 people fold behind him while he's thinking if he wants to put in 300. Inside, I'm begging for him to call, as he has about 600 total in his stack, and we'd love to get it all in there. He mulls it over a bit, and after trying to take back his 15, I let him know that that has to stay, as does the dealer, and he folds his hand after putting that back into the pot. We check our cards again, making sure we have ace-king, and we announce, I'm all in, and jam over the top of him for our $1,000+ stack. He announces that he has the same lousy hand as before and asks if we have a big ace, and we inform him that we do. He says, oh, you're way ahead then. The dealer rips out a 9 of hearts, 4 of hearts, and 4 of diamonds. He shows ace 10 of hearts, so he does have a flush draw here, and he's making us sweat. Luckily for us, Anastasia peels out a king for us to pair up, and the river brings him no help in the form of a 5 of spades. We announce, fuck yeah, because by some miracle, he didn't have 9-4 there, and we were happy to get our 6-2 offsuit money back from him. All right, next hand, we're on the low jack, or in the low jack, I should say, and it folds quickly to us, and we look down at black pocket 8s. We raise it to $10, and the button, who is the maniac, 3-bets us to $45. We put in a flat call, as he has about $500 behind now due to the roller coaster variety he's been on, and he just stacked someone last hand with air that got there on the river. We're heads up, and we see a flop of queen, queen, 6, rainbow. The maniac leads out for $20, and we flat call. The turn is a 10, and he checks, and we check as well, as we have a solid showdown hand against his range and don't need to put ourselves in a weird position against this crazy play. The river comes an inconsequential 7, and he checks, and we check, and we show 2 pairs, 8s and queens, and he says good hand while showing us king-jack suited. He did turn an open-ender, but luckily for us, the paired board slowed down his betting, and the river ran out clean. For the last hand of this crazy session, we're under the gun +1, and after under the gun folds to us, we peek down at pocket 9s. We put in a raise of $10, and we get 3 callers, so we're going 4 ways to the flop. The flop comes out ace of hearts, 8 of spades, and 7 of clubs. We lead out for $30 with plans on barreling multiple times to put pressure on weak aces and hoping we don't run into flop 2 pair. 8-7 and ace-8 suited are definitely in their late position calling ranges, so we have to adjust accordingly. The button calls and the turn brings a 3 of diamonds. We bet another $75, looking, probing for some fold equity, and making any middling pair and straight draws pay. They do indeed pay with a call, and we go to the river, which peels out a 2 of hearts. At this point, we're ready to check fold almost everything, unless we get a weird gut feeling to call light if our opponent does indeed decide to bet. Almost any weak ace will be checking behind too, though, so we're confident we're going to see a showdown here. He does indeed check, and we show the 9s, and he gives us the classic "it's good" nod and mucks his hand. I think he was chasing an open ender, had a weak pair, and was hoping for a second. Either way, we'll take it, and what a ride of a session. So we're on our way to the cage with the final count. I bought in for $600. I always get 2 buy-ins when I'm getting my chips. I did not need to use the second one at all, so I was only in the game for $300, but I had $300 in my pocket. So I just do that so I can top up at any time and always keep my stack at max buy-in. But yeah, we were in for $600. We cashed out for $17.46. We played for 8 hours and 20 minutes, bringing our hourly rate to $137.26. Not a bad session.
You guys saw it. Banger of a session. Super fun. I always play better when I'm having a blast and enjoying everyone's company and the banter at the table. That was happening, obviously, at this one. Definitely made a few big mistakes. Always do. never play perfect poker. Even when I get lucky and just seem to make a mistake that turns out well. But either way, turned on the camera, bam, all came together. And then on top of it, I did this whole thing myself. So my confidence with this whole YouTube journey has just grown exponentially. It would grow a lot more if you like and subscribe, turn on notifications, leave a comment saying whether you did or didn't like it. And if you have any feedback on what you'd like to see or what you thought I could do better, I am open to everything. So drop it down below. Thanks a lot, guys. See you soon.